Hello, I hope you are doing well. Today, I would like to talk about a course in international logistics, where I want to introduce to you the international commercial terms known as Incoterms. And Incoterms rules or contracts are applicable uh, in any multimodal transportation systems where we have international suppliers or producers. And for the case of transactions between sellers and buyers, there are some rules, and uh, today I will first introduce these rules to you, and we define the main factors and the contracts and the different version of Incoterms, and then finally we review the Incoterms and its implementation in a closed supply chain network in one of my papers. So, to first define it, I should say that uh, Incoterms are a set of standard and predefined rules which are applicable in international trades and transactions. Uh, th- the main goal of these rules is to define the responsibility of buyers and sellers, where we have international transaction or international trade. For the first time, the Incoterms developed and published by International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, where ICC is a global institution established in 1919 in Paris. And the main goal of the Incoterms were to represent the businesses worldwide. In ICC, they want to uh, present the businesses in a global manner, and the goal was to protect the traders and also supply chains against international conflicts and government policies. And during the first time that the ICC was organized, it was before the World War II. Therefore, uh, and during the 20th century, there were many international conflicts from the countries like Soviet Union and also United States. So, uh, the goal of ICC was to protect the businesses, and they provide some international trade contracts to ensure that all the businesses are clear, and and we they these contracts help the buyers and sellers to reduce misunderstandings, and to have no disputation between the buyers and sellers. And it provide a legal certainty for based on the responsibility, risk, cost for both parties in a trade where we have international transactions between different countries. Uh, so, as we said, the, the international commercial terms or Incoterms uh, help and are very important in international export and import activities. And the parties are often unfamiliar with each other responsibility and with each other's trade practices. And the goal of Incoterms is to solve and clarify all the misunderstandings, disputes, and legal conflicts. And the Incoterms are very useful to reduce and to minimize the loss of time and money for both parties. So Incoterms was firstly proposed, and its first edition was in 1936. And there are many versions today, but we can say that after the version 2000, the main rules and contracts have not been changed a lot. So today I will first review and explain with details the 2000 version of Incoterms, and then we will review it and compare it with the version 2020, and then we explain it in how it can be implemented. These rules can be modeled and be considered in a exclusive supply chain network for modeling in supply chain management. So the main factors in Incoterms are classified in three groups: the costs, the risks, and the contractual obligations or the responsibility. For the cost terms, we have different types of costs that can be considered in Incoterms rules and contracts. For example, the manufacturing cost, the packaging cost, documentation cost, transportation and handling, and insurance cost, inspections cost, and many other costs which are related to freight charges and banking fees, and also domestic transport in the seller's country, and so on. All these costs can be considered or can be excluded from the Incoterms. In addition, from the responsibility perspective, the Incoterms must clearly define the responsibility of each stage of transportation for the buyers and sellers. And the Incoterms are very useful to clarify the delivery points, document responsibilities, and the payment terms. And another factor in all Incoterms rules are the risks. There are many types of risk: physical risk, currency risk, political risk, and the commercial risk. And the Incoterms mainly focus on the transportation risks, where they want to transport some products from an origin to a destination, where the origin and destination are in two different countries. And so the Incoterms contribute to the transportation risk for transporting these products from the origin to the destination based on the different issues that can be considered. So in Incoterms 2000, we have 13 trade terms, and these trade terms are categorized in four groups. In the first one, in the group E or EXW, is a contract that clarify how the seller makes goods available at their premises, and how the buyer bears all the costs and risks from there. In group F, there are three types of contracts: FAS free alongside ship, FCA free carrier, and FOB free on board. In group F, the seller delivers goods to the carrier appointed by the buyer without paying the main carriage. And group C and group D. In group C, we have four contracts, including CFR, cost and freight, CIF, cost, insurance and freight, CPT, carriage paid to, and CIP, carriage and insurance paid to. So in group C, the seller pays for the main carriage, but risk transfers to buyer after the shipment. In group D, seller bears all the costs and risks to bring goods to the destination. and includes DAF, DES, DEQ, DDU, and DDP. DAF delivered at frontier, DES delivered ex ship, DEQ delivered ex key, DDU delivered duty unpaid, and DDP and delivered duty paid. So now we want to introduce each term and clarify the issues. So the first one is EXW. So in EXW, as we can see, the seller has the minimum responsibility, and all the costs and risk are associated with the buyer. So the seller makes the goods available and packed for the pickup at the place of the receipt of factory in the origin country. And all the issues for the and the risks for the transportation and the movement from the origin to destination are responsible for the buyer. So this term carries the minimum obligation for the seller. Uh, Another one is FAS, which is in F group, free alongside ship. So as can be guessed from its name, here the seller makes the goods or products available before the movement by a ship. So under this term, the seller's responsibility is to deliver the goods alongside the ship on the quay. And as you can see, in this contract, most responsibilities and costs and the risks are associated for the buyer for the transportation by a ship and movement for inspection and transportation to in the destination country. Uh, and this contract is also customized to the ship legs where we want to use we want to transport the products in an offshore logistics uh, between an origin to a destination uh, countries by sea mode. Another one is FOB, free on board. So as can be seen, there is a bit more responsibility in comparison with the previous one, and the responsibility for the risk, cost, damage, or loss, and everything uh, uh, are more for the buyer, and the seller here is unresponsible to deliver the products on board the ship at the named port of loading. It means that it is the responsibility of the seller to transport the products to the port where the ship is ready to transport and to uh, handle the products to the destination country. FCA or Free Carrier Act. Here, uh, what is from the what can be seen is that this contract is available for all the transportation modes, not only ships, but we can see the trains and airplanes uh, have been considered in this contract. In FCA, a free carrier, the seller is responsible for delivering the products into a custody of the transport carrier at the named point, having cleared the products through the customs in the country of export. We can see that it is based on the same principle as FOB, except that the seller fulfills his obligation when he delivers the goods into the custody of a carrier at the name point. So it is for the multimodal transportation, and it is named at place. And however, as we can see, more costs and risks in this rule are for the buyer. In CFR rule or cost and freight, in this contract, the seller is responsible for paying the costs and the freight to bring the goods to the name port of the destination. So we can see that here the seller supports more costs, even the cost for the movement by ships. However, the risks are more associated to the buyer. The risk of loss or damage to the goods is transferred from the seller to the buyer. And when the goods pass the ship's rail at the port of loading, so all the risks for the damages, for the loss, for the cost of the insurance are associated to the buyer. Another one is CIF, cost, insurance, and freight. So this term is the same as CFR, except that the seller has to procure and pay for marine insurance for the goods during the carriage. So the insurance here is paid by the seller. However, other types of the risks associated with this transportation, such as loss or something else, others are responsible for the buyer. And CPT, carriage paid to, and here it is similar to the previous one. However, we have a multimodal transportation for the movement between the origin and destination. And here the seller is responsible for arranging the carriage and paying to the freight to the named destination. However, the risks, similar to previous ones, for the loss, for the damage, passes from the seller to the buyer when the products have been delivered into the charge of the carrier by any types of transportation modes. So CPT is again useful for multimodal transportation from an origin to a destination, where the costs have been defined in a case where the seller is unresponsible for the costs for the shipment till destination, and however the risks are more associated to the buyer. And Incoterms CIP, carriage and insurance paid, is a bit more complete version of previous one, where we also support the insurance. So this term is the same as CPT. However, the seller must pay the marine insurance for the products. And similar to CIF, CIP is suitable for multimodal transportation. As we can see that there are different types of transportation modes which are available for transporting the products from the origin to the destination. And DAF, or deliver at frontier. So here it seems like to be an half and half, where the costs and risks are divided between the sellers and buyers. Here, the seller is responsible for delivering the products and cleared for export, and to the buyer at the name and place of delivering at the frontier. So in this contract, the transportation mode is unclear, and what is important is the frontier which have been agreed by both parties. It should be noted that in this contract, the seller is not responsible for carrying the goods through customs for import into the country of destination. So the some transportation activities and inspection in the destination country are still the responsibility for the buyer. And delivered X ship or DES, as we can see, it has more cost and risk which are associated to the reseller. So here, the seller is responsible for making the products available to the buyer on the board the ship and not customs cleared at the port of destination. So some activities for the import, for the inspection for the import activities and the transportation in destination are the responsibility for the buyer. Uh, and this contract is customized to the sea and also or the multimodal, but it must be very common for the sea mode of transportation. And now DEQ, what you can see, we have now more responsibility in comparison to the previous one, where here the seller is responsible for delivering the products to the key at the port of destination, not cleared for import customs, and bears all costs and risks associated with bringing the products to that point. So goods are uncleared for import and must be evaluated at the destination country. And here we can see that it is suitable for the ship transportation in where we have, and in these Incoterms, the final stage of the journey must be evaluated and must be paid and considered by the buyer. So uh, another one is DDU, delivered duty unpaid. So as we can see, it is more suitable for multimodal, and it most of the costs and also risks are associated to the seller. However, the goods are uncleared for import, and there are some transportation for the buyer. Here, the seller is responsible for delivering the goods or the products to the named place of the receipt at the destination country. However, the seller is not required to pay any duties, taxes, or other official charges upon the delivering the products on the destination country. So these costs and taxes are the responsible for the buyer. And DDP, delivery duty paid, is another Incoterms contract in Incoterms 2000, where we can see that here it is the maximum responsibility associated to the seller. So the seller here is responsible for all parts from the transportation, from the uh, factory to the port, and the transportation by the different types of transportation modes, and even the goods must be cleared at the for the inspection at the destination country, and also the transportation for from the in the destination country. So here the seller is responsible for delivering the products to named place of destination with cleared and must be clear the products for import activities in the country of destination. This Incoterms, as can be seen, is in has is opposite to the EXW Incoterm, where it covers all the responsibility to the seller. However, in EXW, all the responsibility contribute to the buyer. So, having an overview, we can see how much the comparison between the Incoterms rules and how much the responsibility are divided between the seller and the buyer. And this visual presentation of the contracts also very useful and helpful to understand how much risk, cost, and transportation or insurance have been covered by each Incoterms rule. And as we can see, the EXW has the minimum risk, cost, and transportation covered by the seller. Uh, in in a opposite way, DDP is the DDP covers all the risk, cost, transportation, and insurance from the seller perspective. So uh, it is an overview for all contracts or rules for Incoterms 2000. Now we want to review the Incoterms 2020 and how much it differs. So we can see it has some new contracts, and it has more an upgrade and complete version that covers more details for transportation from the first carrier alongside the ship, loading port, transportation by different transportation modes, destination port alongside the ship, transportation, and even the buyer or from the app to the delivery point. So, and the main difference between the Incoterms 2000 and Incoterms 2020 is that in Incoterms 2020 we have less terms. So two terms were removed and one is added. So the terms DIF, DES, and DEQ and DDU were removed, and the terms DPU, delivered at place unloaded, replaced to the DAT, delivered at terminal from delivered at terminal, which is it is extracted from the Incoterms 2010. So Incoterms 2020 includes explicit security-related obligations and costs, and which are not clearly defined in the Incoterms 2000. And under Incoterms 2020, there is an additional provision for FCA where the buyer can request the seller to obtain an onboard bill of loading for the letters of credit purposes. So, as it can be seen in new version of Incoterms, more details have been added to the contracts and to the rules to make them more applicable for two-day transportation and shipment activities around the world. So if you are interested to read more about the Incoterms, these are the books that I suggest everyone to have a look at them and they are very useful to better understand the international logistics and how we can model or analyze the international logistics based on based on the international trades and also the general supply chain analytics modeling. Now, I have used Incoterms in one of my recent papers, and if you are interested, I suggest to read this paper, which is available in the Journal of Industrial Information Integration. I was glad that I have the collaboration with other scholars around the world who were very help me in this article. So, in this article, we have a closed supply chain, and here we have this. I have a set of suppliers who are outside. Who the suppliers here are international, and other parts of the supply chain network, including the production assembly, disposal, distribution, evaluation centers, and markets, are uh, in the in a destination country. However, the suppliers are outside of the country. So, in this type of closed loop supply chain network, we can use international commercial terms, Incoterms, to consider the transportation and how the cost of transportation can be formulated and modeled in a closed supply chain network. For example, here we have defined the Incoterms rules as an index which have been used in the parameters, and the type of transportation most are also linked to the Incoterms rules. So there are some parameters, for example, such as this parameter in the paper, which defines the transportation costs under a specific Incoterms rules with the transportation mode, which must be sent from the supplier to a manufacturing center. So, based on the Incoterms in 2020 version, so we have defined the value for the transportation costs, and for more details related to the how we model this paper, how do we model the disclosure supply chain based on such information from Incoterm, I suggest to read the paper. And again, thank you for your watch. I hope the it this presentation is very useful for you to better understand the Incoterms and how we can model the international logistics. If you have any questions related to the Incoterms and any issues related to the international logistics or global supply chains, I'll be happy to answer you by email. Thank you so much and have a great day.